All right, good morning. Welcome back here to Trader Minute. Great to have you aboard. I hope you had a fantastic weekend. Market off and rolling here this morning, and rolling being the operative word, as we saw a massive gap down here in S&P futures that has changed the pricing on a lot of stocks in a big way. So we'll go out and take a look at that. I'm not going to rehash all the news elements that are out there. They're all over the place, and it's all coronavirus related. In terms of the spread of that contagion, and it kind of taking a little more hold there in Korea, in Europe. All that stuff is out there. We've looked at kind of where you can get, the information, several times, and then, it's just everybody's got an opinion on it and everything else. So it's all out there and available. So I'm not going to rehash that, but I'm going to go through, take a look at the price action, talk about what it means for the challenge, and then, show you kind of some of the stuff I'm looking at that may not be challenge related, but hey, we're finally getting a dip, right? I mean, let's face it, we haven't seen this type of action in a long time. There's some real nice trading advantages to seeing this type of action. So we'll go take a look at what some of those are. But challenges in all cash. Went to all cash on Friday. I did not get into the bearish entry triggers on Friday. We had three downside entry triggers, JP Morgan, Nike, and MGM. I opted not to get into them because the options were just a little too expensive. Obviously, I can't go chase them here today. All three of them are close to hitting their price target here with this morning's gap down. So I am going to have to let those go and wait for the next signals. As far as next signals go, there are some crossovers out there. So we'll see kind of how they play out here today. We could see downside signals come in on any of these here on the on the downside list. A few of them probably not. But, we are seeing GM. But some of these things, they're moving a little too much to create a downside trigger. If we take a look at Visa, right, it's down $6, $5.75 now. But you can kind of see it's traded all over the place. Isn't going to be a signal this morning, but coming off of a high. We'll talk more about this type of chart here, but that's not going to create a signal. But we could see signals come in and emerge on something like a FedEx or a Target or a Caterpillar, for instance here, and so we'll kind of see how they shape up later on here today, and then what the options look like. Here with them. On the bullish crossover list, the upside list, there aren't any, but wouldn't expect many, here this morning. So challenge is still in cash, going to stay in cash this morning. I'll run the scan here in 30 minutes to see if there's a signal, but even if there is, the chances of it having an option value that's decent are very slim. And you can take a look at the big spike in the VIX here this morning. Now, the VIX is real big jump here this morning, 30%. So options are just very inflated right now, and for good reason, right? It's not like it's, that's just abnormal. Or no, this is what happens on mornings like today. There's a lot of questions. There are a lot of fund managers trying to figure out, is this valuation? Is this worth holding? Where do I have to trim? They get the risk managers knocking at their door saying you got to cut. And so, just pricing generally is less stable, volatility higher, and we see a big jump in the VIX, in this type of environment. Now, S&P futures gap down last night. Right here, you can see the gap down. It just really bled. Then Europe opened, and they, took another 50-point nosedive. You can see overnight we had more than a 20-point rally. A 25-point rally come in? That's what this little move right here is. It's a 25-point rally. And then we saw a move to a new low right before the U.S. Open. And we've seen what? We've seen pretty much buying pressure, right? This is one of the things that is very typical of bigger gaps down in the market for the last several years. That is that the bigger gaps down, they tend to get bought up. we tend not to see gap down selling come into the market or come into many stocks. So you're going to see the news out there, and it's going to be it's bloody and it's everything else. But take a look at Apple. So far, and it's early, so far, is there more selling or buying? What's the real pressure? The real pressure is buy pressure, right? That's the real pressure. What about Disney? It's buy pressure. There's been more buying of Disney today than selling. What about Netflix? Buying. There's been much more buying than selling today. And I know the stocks are down big, but they've been bought. Right? And that's what we're seeing this morning. Now, I don't say that to say, hey, rush out, buy any of these because they can be bought right here and go. But this has been very typical of the larger gaps down in the market to where we see more buy pressure actually come in than sell pressure. And it's one of the reasons why most sell-offs have been so short-lived, in this market for the last several years. Take a look at Micron. More buying or selling pressure this morning. Right, we saw the gap, right? The futures gap, altered the bid-ask price into the open. But with that new bid-ask, things have been bought, not sold. What about Visa? Right? I mean, Visa opened up down 196. That 196 is $6 higher. Right? We have seen pretty much mostly buying pressure this morning. Now, it's not, everywhere. You take a look at something like BHP Billiton. We don't see that. You take a look at Bank of America, not so much, but it's not heavy sell pressure, right? You take a look at AT&T, first instant, boom, buy. You take a look at, who's the other one here? J&J. This one's, instant. Open, boom, shot up, has seen more sell pressure since those first 2 minutes. So, but generally, what are we seeing? We're seeing more buy pressure than sell pressure. Now, this is something where a lot of traders, they look at a morning like this morning and they go, ooh, look at that candle on Honeywell. Is this a buy candle? Should I buy it? Is this the time to jump in? And, if you're trading options, you just have to look at the option pricing and figure out the risk reward to go, wait a minute, it doesn't make sense for me to go buy an option and put a stop at today's low, which would be typical because, hey, if it hits that, my option's not going to be worth very much there on that. So for me, what am I doing? Well, couple things. This morning, I did jump into a few trades right at the open, not option trades. I did not touch the option market. But one of the things I jumped into right away was Apple. And the only reason I jumped in was the fact that we're gapping down. Big. And the fact of the matter is that in the market, we have seen the big gaps down. They have seen more buy pressure than sell pressure. So I took a small chance. I'm now out. I got out before I got on video, took a few bucks on that. Great, next, and onward. So, that's not something where I look at Apple and go, well, should I hold it because it's had this, reversal here? Very good chance that we see some sell pressure into the close, just kind of, take some things down like this. But this is a day where I'm doing something a little different than Friday. On Friday, talked about UTX, right? Talked about the fact that, this stock was up on a down day in the market. What does that mean? And I made a very, very drawn-out argument that it meant absolutely nothing. That it just simply, the fact that it outperformed the market on Friday was meaningless because of what the market conditions were. But today, we have a little bit of a switch. Take a look at the advancers versus decliners. Everything's down. We're talking about everything getting thrown away today, right? Now, that doesn't mean you go buy because, blood's running in the street and all those, market wisdoms. But this is something where we don't have any differentiation out there. It's not where we're looking and going, well, investors are selling this and buying this. No, this morning they're selling. They're worried economically. What's the impact of the coronavirus? And boom. Okay, great, they're selling. And it's across the board. On days like this, where there is this massive selling and this massive move in futures, now stocks that are outperforming, yeah, they do catch my eye. They are something I'm looking at. Doesn't mean I'm going to buy them, but I start to kind of say, all right, what's up here? Something may be up, right? And so as today progresses, and it's not going to happen right away, but as today progresses, some of those stocks that are, in the green or not down all that much with the market down, are some of the stocks that you can take a look at and say, all right, these may be worth doing some homework on. These may be worth adding to a list. Now, I'm not referring to gold or gold-related stocks, and they're all up, right? But I'm referring to some of the companies that, are not taking a bath here on this move. And I'm just pulling up this little chart right here that just kind of shows where some things are. And you can see some relative performances. And a lot of these seem like real estate or consumer staple stocks, at least so far. So we'll be, keeping an eye on this, seeing if we do see any, minor outperformances that may be noteworthy. But to me, today is that type of day where if you do see a UTX standing out, that's a little more meaningful than what it was on Friday because the market condition has switched and switched dramatically. And so that's the first thing I'll be doing here today. Is just kind of looking at those and seeing, okay, where do we see some of the stronger outperformances? Second thing I'll be doing is looking at my wish list, right? I haven't been heavily invested. And, with the way the market started off this year, that kind of seemed to bite, a little bit and not, not be all that great. But now it doesn't look too bad, right? We get one down day, and, the market performance on the year is, pretty flat now. Pretty flat performance on the year. And that puts fund managers in a tricky spot because they don't want to go red. And, if we do start to see the market go red, could lead to significantly more selling. But I've told myself, look, I don't like some of these stocks at the prices that they're at. I need some pullback to be a buyer. And so today I'll be going through some of my favorites and saying, all right, is there a chance to be a buyer? Here's some of my favorites. Let's go through them. Chipotle. Is this enough for me to be a buyer? No, it's not. 1 day, 2 day pullback isn't a correction. So I need to see something a little more substantial, need to see something a little more oversold, and it's just not there. Starbucks. I mentioned this when we first had the coronavirus issue that, hey, Starbucks is going to get hit. It's going to lag. It's going to underperform because a lot of their growth is coming out of China. And if you see some of the images of some of the areas where the coronavirus is hitting in China, they're ghost towns right now. So nobody's going to Starbucks and picking up some coffee. So their growth area is getting dinged. They're going to have to revise their earnings down, their revenues down. Is this the dip to be a buyer? For me, not yet. Right? I don't have a good risk-reward scenario. I have a lower high coming in. And, there's nothing there, for me here just yet. What am I looking for? I'm looking for the stock to close above the high from the prior day. Do we have that? No. And that's the case for most things. Whether I go Boeing, which I have a position in, I would like to add more. My add position here, I'm looking for, this 320 area. To me, this is the area that really needs to hold. But it can break if the market, tanks there. I'm not too concerned about that. Do I buy some more right here? I may. I may going into the close here today. But I don't exactly have a rip-roaring buy signal. Bank of America, I'd like to be a buyer. All right. Is this a buy area? No. Netflix? Selling of Netflix on coronavirus issues to me makes absolutely no sense. It's just one of those things where Netflix, you could make an argument that they're benefited by it, but this is one of the stocks I think makes the least sense to be a seller of, and one of my favorite stocks out there in the market. Does it give me a chance to grab some? Not exactly. We're not talking about a meaningful dip here in the stock, and for most names, that's the case. IBM starting to get a little bit more meaningful, starting to come into some retracement levels. Twilio, same thing, right? Exact same thing. So as I go out and I look and I say, all right, are things, really juicy to step in and be a buyer of? No, not yet. Not yet. But let's go back to Boeing. Where does this get juicy? Well, think about option pricing today. Option pricing is pretty inflated, right? Option prices are pretty high. So if we look at the implied volatility on Boeing, it's jumped up here to 33 for the March contracts. I mean, I can come down, I can sell the 300s for $3 here. I would love to be a buyer. I'd love to own Boeing shares at 300. That would be fantastic. I know it can break 300 if the market dips and, struggles and all of that. But this is an area where I don't mind being a buyer. So I can go out, use this implied volatility jump, and sell some put options in order to enter into an investment trade. Now, I'm not going to do that now. I'm not going to do that this morning, because oftentimes, we will see a morning bounce get sold into and get sold into pretty hard. So I want to see how things, play out a little bit here today, as I don't think we'll see the VIX, pull back all that much. But that's, the way I would look at getting into something if I really liked it right here, right now. Boeing's probably the closest that I could say I really like it right here, right now. It's one of those where there's not a lot that I look at and go, wow, this is now brought it into a level that is just irresistible. No, that's not what we're seeing. But, if we start to see that as the day progresses, that's one way to, take your shopping list, go pick up a little bit on the cheap and kind of get paid to get in. And if the stock rallies or flattens, great, you're good. If it dips, it's not too bad. You're put the shares at a level that, is very juicy and very nice there. As far as the challenge goes, very slim chance of triggering anything here today or this morning. But this afternoon, as we see things kind of tick around, as the algorithm shifts a little bit, there are several things that could, jump out and, could trigger. And if and as they do, I will look to enter. There is nothing about what the market's doing today that will change, how I go about the challenge and the process of the challenge. And we'll, continue to go about it. And I will buy options when they fit in the challenge parameters. And, if they don't, I'll let them go. And I'll wait for the next one, to come on board. Thanks for hopping on. Have yourselves a fantastic day. And we'll talk to you this afternoon. Take care.